It's a happy prayer.
I thought the most recent episode of The Last of Us was pretty good. With some quibbles, of course, because what kind of critic would I be if I didn't have quibbles? Right now, all the Walking Dead fanboys are really mad at me, asking me again and again why I keep reviewing that show if I don't like it, to which I can only say two things. It's fun to review things you don't like, and it's my job. Anyways, I did like this, though. I've had really mixed feelings about this season, which is not surprising since I had really mixed feelings about The Last of Us Part 2 by Naughty Dog, the video game. And this season, while it's making some pretty big changes, for good and ill, is still pretty much the same story. So it's bound to be something I have mixed feelings about. There are some people, of course, who are going to love everything about this no matter what, because there's always fans like that. And then there are some people who, for various reasons, are going to hate this season. Maybe they just really hated the game. I understand that. Maybe they really dislike the casting. I also understand that. There's some problems with casting. But I try to judge each episode on its own merits. And this one I thought was pretty strong. And I think Bella Ramsey really, really did a good job here. Where she won me over the most was the Take On Me song, where she and Dina have found this music store in Seattle. And she finds a guitar and tunes it up. I'm so glad they had her tune it. That's so much more realistic than her just picking up a guitar that's been sitting there forever. But she plays a-ha's Take On Me. And I think she does a really, really good job with this. I mean, I love Ashley Johnson, and I love the version of this that takes place in the game. It's one of those, I like all, maybe I'm just soft in my old age, but I like all the sort of happier moments in the game. I really like all the flashbacks with Joel, and I like the musical moments, the emotional moments, because I think so much of the game is just so bleak and unpleasant that those moments really stood out for me. But I think that this scene is every bit as good as the one in the game. I think that Bella does a great job singing and playing this song. And I think that Dina's reaction is actually what really sort of solidifies it as maybe even better than the game version, because she's really emotional and moved by this. And I felt emotional during this scene. So, but I am a big old softie. So lots of things make me emotional in movies and TV. So I think that really, though, even though the big problem with Bella Ramsey is she just looks so young. So like later they have sex and it's super awkward because Dina looks so much older than her, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't know if you should be doing that. But I think that my problems with her earlier in the season were less about her acting per se and more about the writing. They really made her act like such an obnoxious brat especially in the first episode. And I think they did that so that when, after Joel dies, that she has sort of a transformation into a more serious person. But I still think it was a mistake. I mean, they could have had her be a little bit more goofy in the first episode and then more serious later on, but having her just be so unlikable and act so young. Now that she's acting her age, I think she's doing a much better job. I still prefer video game Ellie, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But I do think that Bella put in a good performance this episode, both here in the song, but also earlier on when she and Dina are riding through the city and they're kind of joking around about, I thought it was kind of funny when they're joking around about all the rainbow flags and they had no idea what it symbolized. I liked that part. It made me laugh. And I think she did a good job in the rest of it. A lot of the rest of it is action, but her getting bit and then revealing her secret to Dina and then Dina revealing that she's pregnant. I thought all that was really good. I think that, ultimately, even though they're solid, these two as protagonists, I think that we are still going to suffer from just no Joel. Joel and Ellie are so much the heart of this story. Removing Joel makes the rest of the story just feel empty, and it will always feel a little empty without him. Even if they give us flashback scenes, I mean, especially if they give us some of these flashback scenes from the game, we're going to be reminded of how much we miss that dynamic. I certainly was playing the game. And I think, frankly, I like Pedro Pascal. I still think he was also the wrong choice for Joel. I just think that, when we break it all down, both actors have done a great job. I think that they just don't feel enough like the video game characters. And it's not just that I've played the video game, but I think the story works better when you stick a little closer to the original in terms of the casting. I mean, they do so many other things where it's like shot for shot from the game, but then radically change sort of something so fundamental as casting. It's weird. But anyways, that's a done deal. We can't change that now, so we'll try to move past it. I like this episode for a number of other reasons. I thought that all the stuff with the infected was really good. The subway scene with the red flares and the horde of infected that overwhelms the wolves. I mean, that's really pretty much directly from the game, but they did a great job escalating the tension and just pulling off that whole scene. I like that there's generally more infected this season than last season. I think that's really good. I like Jeffrey Wright as Isaac. They have fleshed out his character more than in the video game, and I think that's smart, especially with such a talented actor. He has two great scenes, one where he betrays his Fedra compatriots and throws a grenade into their armored vehicle. That was cold, man. That was quite a moment. And then even colder is when he's in a kitchen with one of the captured Seraphites or Scars and tortures him by burning his flesh off with heated copper pans. And he just does that whole scene is just captivating, honestly. Which also brings me to what I dislike about generally one of my biggest problems with the game and with this season is really these factions just feel so much like they're taken from The Walking Dead. Like the Scars, they're so goofy. Like there's such it's like the Whisperers or all the different, hell, there's a Walking Dead group called the Wolves. But in The Walking Dead, we pretty much get season after season, whether it's the spinoffs or the main show, what the story becomes is this faction versus faction story. It's just one group fighting another group over and over and over again. And think about it. If you've watched The Walking Dead, think about how often it's like one group versus another group in a conflict. It's resolved. The next season, there's a new group and there's a conflict with that group and it's resolved. And it doesn't matter. Fear the Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Dead City, all of these. I watch all of them. And they all do the same thing over and over and over again. And now we have The Last of Us, which has this conflict between the wolves and the Scars. And it just feels too much like a cartoon Walking Dead conflict. And that is unfortunate because you do not want your premium HBO drama to ever be compared to The Walking Dead. The Scars in particular bother me. You just don't... You don't put a group of soldiers with machine guns and tanks and all that stuff up against a group with bows and arrows and expect any kind of even fight. I don't care how fanatical these guys are. They don't use technology. And that is not you can look through history at all the conflicts when one side had guns and one side had bow and arrows, whatever. The guns always win. They always win. So anyways, the faction stuff, that bugs me. Beyond that though, I did think this was a good episode. I've actually seen, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I've seen through episode 6 because HBO finally gave me screeners. Thank you, HBO, for finally doing that. They just didn't give me a screener for episode 2, because it was the big Joel death, as though that's some big surprise, like we couldn't already know what happens. Anyways, but I think 4, 5, and 6 are really pretty strong episodes, and stronger than the first half of the season was. I don't know what happens in 7, but my theory is, we still haven't seen Abby. We've almost gotten as much Isaac as we have Abby at this point, actually. But my theory is that this season will end when the big shift in the game happens. And I won't spoil that, but there's a big shift, and then we get a totally new side of the story in the second half of that game. And my suspicion is that in season 3 we'll get that shift, because honestly, at this point, how far can they go with just 3 more episodes left? It's a very short season, and it's a very short season because they're dividing it into at least 2. Maybe 3. Maybe there'll be a 4th season that ties everything up, which that feels like overkill to me. Beyond that, I've heard some people say that they felt like all the Dina and Ellie interactions were too teen romance or whatever. I can see that. I also just feel like they need to establish their relationship somehow. And they did that some last week, but they need to, this is one of the most important dynamics in the story. And if you're going to replace the Joel and Ellie dynamic with Ellie and Dina, you really have to have various moments of humor and connection and all the other things that go into that. And I think that's what they're doing. It didn't bother me. Again, I thought that the dialogue when they first get to Seattle was pretty funny. I thought that, Ellie revealing her immunity and then Dina revealing her pregnancy, I thought that was fine. Some people I've seen a lot of comments where it's like when Ellie says, "I'm going to be a dad," taking that like it's some horrible line. I just think it's a joke. I mean, I think she's just trying to be funny. That's kind of her humor. I don't know. It didn't bother me. So I am feeling more positive and upbeat about this episode than the previous three. But it's still it's very much a mixed bag. And I don't know how we are going to get beyond some of the big fundamental problems with this story that the game never really overcame either. So we'll see. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, check off all those boxes. Peace.
It's a happy, proud rainbow town. So why am I feeling so run down with my horse and my girl by my side? I'm riding through the city now, and I'm not sure, but I know somehow this time we're in for quite a ride. Yeah, Ellie has her guitar and her trusty 45. It's one thing to get revenge and another just to stay alive. There's a bad wind and blowing, but I'm happy just for knowing that I'll introduce Abby to my night.